you will end up alone. You will end up by yourself. It's the truth. Hi, beautiful people. I said hi, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. welcome. Thank you for joining me again. If you've never met me before, my name is Mon E, and I believe so much that vulnerability is a strength. I do my best to be transparent and to share things that could have taken me out, could have broken me. The main thing being getting divorced in my 20s, and I try and share in the hopes that I can be for others what I wished I had in one of my most difficult seasons of life. So yeah, if you like what you see, do hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell. I'm doing my best to be consistent, currently in a divorce series, and I'm just hoping that the things I share will help others who may be going through it or about to make certain mistakes. Just learn a thing or two from my experience. So yeah, let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking all about those red flags. We hear about the red flags, but hopefully I'm about to switch it up a little bit and give you a little bit of a different perspective. Now, I could sit here and tell you all about my ex's red flags. And someone asked me, did you see those red flags before? Was it during? Listen, I'm gonna tell you something I learned. As you start to heal, and it's really interesting because I don't think and I think it's because of the type of person I am. I'm not spiteful or hateful. So telling my side of the story has never been the intention. And I realized that as you heal and as you move forward and move on, you feel comfortable having care and compassion for that person. Like, this is someone that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. So what I'm not going to do, listen guys, if you thought this was going to be an opportunity to have me sitting here reading off another person's flaws, like talking to you about, all the typical stuff we see, where, who a person is doesn't match up to like how they live their lives or what they say and all the rest of it, or you want me to be talking about a person's temperament and all the... No. We're not about to do that. And that's not to undermine the fact that it was an incredibly abusive relationship. But I think what I'm finding that is most impactful is the journey of self-awareness, when we're able to see our flaws and actually do something about it, rather than bleed from one relationship to another. And the reality of the situation is that for people like myself who have been married previously, I'm in my second marriage now, happily married with 2 kids, and the reality of the situation is that if I hadn't done this inner work, I would be bleeding and making the same mistakes in this marriage. And what the research shows and all the stats out there and everything is that the more times you've been married, the higher the likelihood of divorce. So for people, for the second marriages, the divorce rates are higher than even the first time marriages. And then the more marriages as you go up, it's the third time you've been married, the divorce rates are even higher. And for me personally, I think what I've come to realize is that the reason why that happens is because people focus solely on what the other person did. They play the blame game, how the other person hurt them, and they fail to address their own mistakes. They fail to address the things that they may have done that, also contributed to the breakdown of the marriage. And the truth is that it takes 2 to tango. So I don't think I could sit here and be talking to you about another person's red flags without talking to you about my red flags, my toxic traits, and the mistakes that I made. And honestly, on the healing journey, I found that the most difficult part and the most difficult thing to process was being able to look myself in the mirror and realize that even though I was no longer with the messenger, even though I was so hurt by the messenger, my ex-husband, there were truths to the things that he said. Listen, I'm just going to pause. I'm just going to pause right there, because I don't think you know how difficult it is. It's one thing stomaching constructive criticism or like even feedback, but from a friend that you're on good terms with, from people like, some people can't even take that. Some people can't even take being rebuked, called out by a friend, let alone someone who has broken your heart, abused you. Listen, I'm not about to start listing it. That is a difficult thing in itself. And I think being able to look myself in the mirror and forgive myself for the mistakes that I made has been probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. But I'm telling you guys that if you can do that, there is a liberty that's going to come in being so self-aware. I'm not talking about being arrogant about your flaws or anything like that, because that's even the route that some people, like, I own who I am, I know who I am, like, yes, I'm stubborn and da, 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 and they try and act like it's cute, but it really is the reason why you will end up alone. You will end up by yourself. It's the truth. And I'm not saying that like you have to like be complete only when you're, that's not true at all. When I say end up alone, it's the reason why you will push. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. It's those traits are the reason why you're having problems at work, are the reasons why, like, even in church, like, they could, you know, they've had enough of you. It's the reason, like, I'm making jokes and I'm laughing about it, but when we really deep it, there are things that can repeatedly come up in different circumstances that we can go through life thinking it's everybody else, when really and truly it's us. It's us. And I had to go on a journey where I had to address the fact that I really thought that this was God's best for me. Like, this was really the standard I set for myself. And because I saw these things before going into the marriage, I really had big, long conversations with people, expressing my concerns and all the rest of it. But I still wasn't willing to give that up, because I thought that that was the best I was ever going to do. And as I started to unpack that, I started to realize that my self-esteem was really on the floor, and I had to address why that was. Where did that start from? Like, when did this pattern begin? And that for me, like, really, really going back and unearthing these things and working on it is what has ensured that I could even take the step to marry again. Because for a long period of time, I didn't trust myself anymore. And yeah, that's a lot. As I started to go back and like just really think about the things that was said, the things that he had an issue with, how many people know that you can accept the message even if you can't accept the messenger? Oh man. Saying to a friend that, like, when you hit rock bottom and you look to the left and you look to the right and there's no one but you and your God, there's a different level of unashamed that I've reached now, which is the reason I can sit before you and just air my mess in the way that I'm doing. And I feel like when you can do that, and then accept that you're not perfect, and there's things that you actively need to put in place to address the things that need work. Like, I've talked to you guys about my stubbornness. It's really not cute. It's really not cute. Like, at one point in my life I thought it was cute, but it's really not cute when that translates in you're just difficult for no reason. Just make life difficult for no reason to prove a point, because I used to call it principled and principled, so I won't budge. Like, you're just doing yourself, like, really and truly, you're just doing yourself a disservice. But it got me thinking, where did this start? And I want to propose that a lot of this really does start in the home. And I'm going to say something really controversial, because there's always this debate about how, like, with our age group, like, there's just so much divorce and our parents lasted so long, this, that. And whilst that may be true, because we have a certain level of awareness now, I also think that for many of us, if we're completely honest with ourselves, whilst our parents' marriage may have achieved longevity and have lasted decades and decades, I think about the quality of those marriages. I think about the examples that have been set. And for many of us, you know, we come from, so I'm Nigerian, I'm, you know, from the Igbo tribe. And one thing I know about Igbo people is that we're very proud. And, you know, it's about, you know, what you've achieved, and, you know, we take pride in the things that we do. And so you don't want to bring shame, like, to the family name. But that's, what a pressure. Like, what a burden you have to carry in life, because nobody's perfect. So you go through life and you could really be bleeding and broken, but you dare not say it. And so that's one of the things, as I started to look back, I realized that I had perfected doing image gang, seeming like everything on the outside was good to go, perfect, when on the inside I was hurting. I was hurting deeply. And I thought that the solution was gonna come from continuing to, with my first class degree and getting married at a certain age and doing things in a certain way. I thought that my happiness, my joy, my purpose, you know, it was all gonna come from these external factors, when really and truly I was making decisions from a place of brokenness. And there's one thing I've come to realize: the more people open up to me as they go through these situations, I've noticed this pattern where it's like, I question people's self-esteem. You're making one of the biggest decisions in your life, the choice of a life partner, a destiny helper, a destiny carrier, someone who is going to help you fulfill the purpose for which you have been sent on this earth. The person who is gonna be your co-parent, the person who you're gonna bring children, like, I'm talking about, you're making generational decisions with this person, and you make such a decision like that from a place of brokenness, from a place where you don't know who you are. My ex always used to say to me, there's the moniker that you think you are and that you show people, and then there's a moniker that you truly are. And long after our divorce, I had to sit with that. I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate the messenger, but there was a truth to it, because I had gone through life doing image gang, putting on a show and not being authentically who I was, being afraid to be honest about where I was, my questions, being lost, like all of these things. And it's not until I could own that that I was truly, truly set free. We can't allow our self-esteem, our self-worth, and I'm sitting forward for this, we can't allow our self-esteem and our self-worth to be fueled by external sources. I was broken, and I was broken for a reason. I've been hurt. There's a lot of hurt that I was carrying, and I wasn't honest about that hurt. I was afraid to be honest. I was afraid to be vulnerable and say, I don't have all the answers, and I'm lost, and I question my identity, and I don't know who I am. And I didn't feel safe enough to say that. I didn't feel safe enough to explore that and say, I don't really like myself. I'm depressed. I don't like how I look. There was many things, and I had very, very low self-esteem. And so it meant that I was willing to give anyone a chance that thought I was worthy, that thought I was good enough. It's like, okay, if they think I'm good enough, then maybe I actually am. And you can't go through life like that, because we're imperfect. We're imperfect, and that person's gonna hurt you, and that person's gonna do things that you don't like, and that person can't affirm you in the way that you need, and that person can't speak to your future, can't speak to your purpose in the way that your creator can. There's only one person that could fill that role. Only one. And it's not until I found him that I found myself. And so on my healing journey, I had to learn who I was through the eyes of Jesus Christ, my Savior. And it's not until I went on that journey that I found myself. And it's much different when you believe that you're the daughter of the Most High God, and you're searching for a partner, and you see how much of your purpose and your destiny is tied with them, and you approach things with a certain wisdom and understanding that is not your own but God's. That's a completely different thing. That's a completely different thing. And so the awareness that I've found in recognizing that I'm not perfect, and I don't have to be perfect because I serve a perfect God, it's taken so much. It's taken so much pressure off these shoulders. Going through life thinking that I have to have everything figured out 100% of the time, that will stress, that will make you go crazy. It will stress anyone out living that way. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the answers. And I don't have to. I don't have to, and it's okay. But I can tap into the one that has the answers, and there's so much wisdom that comes from that. I know I'm rambling right now, and I haven't really focused on listing all of my red flags and my toxic traits. Hopefully I've shared a few, but the truth is that getting married is a lot more deeper than we realize. This is God's institution of marriage that we're talking about here. It's not as superficial as some people make it seem. It's really deep life choice. It's one of the biggest decisions you will ever make in your life. Please don't make it from a place of brokenness. If you feel empty inside, if you feel lost, if you're hurt, you don't want to be making that type of decision with a broken lens. Take the time to just really heal and make a decision from a whole place. Because on top of being broken and hurt yourself, you're going to hurt somebody else's child, somebody else's daughter, somebody else's son, God's precious child. And you don't want to do that. Because the truth is, I'm here today to share with you, my life in all its glory, in all its glory. And I can say that with a smile on my face. But I'm here today by the special grace of God. I know many who aren't here to tell the story. Like it ended them. It ended them. Whether it's from being in abusive situations or taking their own life, it ended them. There's many who are in mental institutions, who've had mental breakdowns. Like, this is a lot. It's very, very serious. And so rather than tell you all about his red flags and when I noticed it and all the rest of it, yes, I did notice it, but I was broken. So I didn't act on what I could see. I normalized it. And so the best thing you could ever do for yourself is to heal yourself and make sure that you're making decisions from a whole place. Recognize that you yourself are not perfect and you're constantly gonna be a work in progress. Don't think it's all the other person. There's gonna be things that you yourself could improve on and could work on. Make sure you do that first. Make sure you are the type of individual that you would like to be with. They say, what do you bring to the table? Like, and think about that. What do you bring to the table? Like, not just the good stuff. Not just the good stuff. What about your flaws? What about the things that could be a hindrance? Guys, okay, is it up? I'm preaching, and I don't want to preach. I just want to say that being self-aware and being able to hold the mirror up to myself and recognize that I myself is not perfect is one of the best things, one of the freeing journeys that I've ever been on. It was difficult. It was difficult. I can't say that enough. It's been one of the most difficult things, like accepting that maybe I was wrong in this situation, or maybe I handled this in this way, which led this to escalate. And maybe this tongue of mine is very, very slick. And the same way I'm an encourager and I can build people up with my tongue and I can uplift and I can speak life, is the same way I can tear down, disrespect and emasculate. That's not pretty. That's not gonna work in the long run. You will break down that man with your tongue. And if I continue that, I will break down all of the men who I love. I will break down my husband, my two boys, like our tongue. My tongue. Yeah, maybe I need to work on that. Being able to sit with our icks, our toxic traits, our red flags is the best thing we can do for ourselves. Like, let's work on improving ourselves and ensuring that we can be the type of spouses that somebody else would want to be with. Yeah. That's all, guys. Like, honestly, I have to be honest in saying to you guys that, like, the way I'm approaching YouTube is like so different to the way I was before, where I would have like all my points prepared and scripted. I've just been saying, God, whatever message you have for the people, then just speak through me. So I hope this resonated with you guys. For those who are disappointed that I didn't just spend my time dogging on him and talking down on him, I'm sorry for you all, but that's not what I'm here to do. It's not my style. But yeah, like I'm sure you can find that entertainment elsewhere. Here we're just gonna have real talk. We're gonna be transparent with one another. We're gonna be vulnerable, and yeah, like until next time, like tune in again soon. Take care, guys.